So, welcome back to the Prescription to Travel MD podcast and Happy New Year, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Courtney Downes, ER doc, connoisseur of great travels, and prescriber of travel as the ultimate reset. So, this is our first episode of the year. It's actually the first day of the year. And I always love this moment. I think there's something, refreshing about the beginning of a new year that invites reflection. So, not in a, I need to create this, heavy New Year's resolution kind of way, but in a value sort of way. So, today I wanted to do something personal. I wanted to share what I'm looking forward to in travel this year, how I'm thinking about points and strategy, and what I've learned from what went awry this year, and why intentional travel feels more important now than ever before. Because travel, at least the way I see it, isn't about escaping your life. It's about supporting the life that you're already living. And I'm a huge proponent of creating a life by design and not by default, which I've said time and time again. So, let's start with points and miles because I think that's often the gateway into great travel, particularly for those of us who are, mid to high income, who want to continue to meet or exceed, or at the very least, not sacrifice our overall financial goals and still have great travels. One thing that I'm genuinely excited about in points and miles is my strategy. So I'll be opening and closing quite a few cards, again, very strategically over the next year. And high on my list of new cards is Built. So there are updates coming February 6th, 2026 about the new cards. And for me personally, the big one is finally being able to pay a mortgage and get points for it. So existing cardholders will actually have access to their new cards applications on January 14th, with the application deadline being January 30th. Now, they're switching from Wells Fargo to cardless. I'm not exactly sure how that will look, but the big reveal is scheduled for January 14th, in which they're going to share more about the three card options. What we do know is that there will be a no annual fee card, a $95 and a $495 card, and that existing users can select from these three new cards with no hard inquiries to their credit report. I expect that we're going to hear more about exactly how the mortgage option will play out as well. So, for many of us, housing is often our largest recurring expense. So, the idea that something I've been paying for anyway can now earn transferable points and become part of like a broader travel strategy is huge. And I know people have been doing this under the radar anyway, but to do it without, risk of my account being shut down, that's my jam. So, I dipped my toes into Built via Rakuten this year. Rakuten is the shopping portal that will allow you to earn points for your everyday spend, all of the shopping that you're doing normally. So I've talked about this on recent episodes, most recently on my pre-Thanksgiving Black Friday shopping episode that you should definitely check out. But previously, you could convert your Rakuten points into American Express points or Amex points. And then a few months ago, the option to earn Bill points actually showed up. So I definitely have been taking advantage of this one, especially knowing that it won't be a one-to-one points earning opportunity forever. And I don't currently have a Bilt card, so that's pretty much been my strategy for Bilt points, which isn't very good. So it's definitely high on my radar for 2026 to get a Bilt card. Bilt has good options for transfer partners, including your typical, shared partners such as Virgin and Air France and Avios, but it'll also give you access to harder to come by valuable transfer options such as Japan Airline and Hyatt. Now, let's talk about the other side of points and miles, the part where people don't love it as much, the when things go wrong and uncertainty part, which unfortunately is a lot of the time in life and in points and miles. So, big upset with Mesa in the last month. Mesa was a new credit card program that started over a year ago that launched. It allowed you to earn points for your mortgage. So you were paying your mortgage normally, but you were getting points for the mortgage that you were paying, and which was sounded like a really good deal, right? And then on December 12th, cardholders actually got word that their accounts were being closed. Mesa was a card that was tailored to homeowners and allowed them to earn massive amounts of points for expenses that otherwise had been excluded as categorical spend for other credit card issuers. So they were paying, daycare bills and, home renovation bills. I wasn't personally part of Mesa. It shut down. A lot of people had significant points locked up, and then they were told that they could only redeem it through a statement credit at a rate of like 0.6%. And so if you didn't have a statement credit, it seems like you were just SOL. And there were options for transfers out of Mesa immediately, some loopholes that people were able to take advantage of, but you really had to be willing to do the work and to be able to make that happen. And you had to do it within a very short time span. Some cardholders weren't so lucky. And, I really feel for everyone who was affected by that, especially if this was like your intro into the points and miles world. It might even make you say, it's not even worth it to do this anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and spend my cash and I know what I'm getting and I don't have to worry about this. But I think this is one of those moments where you have to just honestly know that you can't foresee everything in points and miles just like you can in life. And sometimes it can be fun, like you can get a massive amount of first class seats that are released on an airline, or, having high-end Mr. and Mrs. Smith properties accidentally having a huge point sale and then having those resorts actually honor those fabulous redemptions. And sometimes it's not, like transferring your points over to an airline because you think you found a really good redemption and then realizing the flight doesn't even exist, or losing all of your hard-earned points and having to cash them out for statement credit. I'll admit it, I did have a lot of FOMO watching from the sidelines. With Mesa, there was all this excitement and there was a buzz and there was a sense of, what if I'm missing out? And I had to take a step back and acknowledge that it wasn't part of my strategy at the time, and that I honestly can't take advantage of every single offer that comes my way as much as I would like to. That offer wasn't for me. But it could easily have been, and I know I could have found myself in the exact same boat. This is also where perspective matters. So yes, you win some and you'll lose some. And for most people, this is just going to be a blip in the road. It's not the end of their travel journey. Just like with investing, you're taking calculated risk, and sometimes it works out and you buy Amazon stock early and you make massive gains on your investment. And sometimes you buy Enron and it tanks. So you just got to roll with the punches. If anything, I think this was an important reminder that no single program, card, or strategy should ever be your entire plan. You've got to diversify. So yeah, have a plan going into 2026 with that plan. All right. So back to the things that I'm looking forward to. One thing that's still very much on my list and carried over from last year is being able to explore more of the US. So the national parks, new states. We spend a lot of time in California because it's so easy. There's so many wonderful options. It's drivable. So here's to being able to see more of the US and maybe getting out of my comfort zone a little bit, which is typically modern, warm, sunny, and trying something new, maybe something that's historic or cold or without a beach, and making it more exciting than it actually sounds when I just said that out loud, and being pleasantly surprised by it. So it's just that there are only so many days in a year, and sometimes the list of places that I want to go and things that I want to see is actually longer than the calendar, like I'm sure many of you. And I sometimes, just want easy and familiar. And so it's trying to find a balance of that. And sometimes stepping outside of the box will actually bring more joy than you thought there would be. So again, giving it a try this year to try something that's a little different. Let's see what happens. I know we did a spring break trip to Big Bear a couple of years ago, and it actually ended up being such a memorable trip for this family of non-skiers. So was completely, outside of the box, but had a great time. So don't knock it. Thinking broadly in terms of travel this year, I think my intention is simple. Travel that supports rest and connection and presence is going to be key for me. I currently have one conference and one retreat on the books that I'm super excited about. And, I just want to pause here, especially for my colleagues who are listening. CME courses and conferences are one of the most underutilized way to be able to travel more. And as I always say, you're already required to do CME. So why not change the scenery? Stack your points with the new credit card welcome offer. Let your job reimburse you and pay for your trip, and, earn you points for the next one. Consider extending the trip by a few days, if you have to, and then maybe just take some time for yourself after the conference if it's something that seems to be a little more time intensive. But really just figuring out ways to turn work travel into something that's restorative. This is one of the easiest ways to travel more without taking more time off, especially if you're in a situation where your work will give you time off that's supported for CME. And I think it's often where my overworkers first realize that, like, oh, travel can actually fit into my life, into my work life. Okay, so let's talk about status, because this is where strategy really shows up. On the hotel side, I am continuing my run with the World of Hyatt. So I call myself Globalist Light right now. So I did the 20-night challenge, which included a few mattress run nights. If you're newer to this world, a mattress run simply means you book a night primarily to earn status or a night stay at the hotel. Sometimes not even staying at the actual hotel, often, because the long-term benefits of status will outweigh the short-term cost of, booking that usually pretty cheap hotel. So I have Hyatt Globalist status until 2027. And this year I'll be working towards status for 2027 and doing it a little more intentionally. So full Globalist requires a mix of 60 nights or nights and spend on a Hyatt credit card or at a Hyatt hotel. And my strategy will likely involve, strategic bookings at Hyatt properties and a big tax payment that unfortunately will be due soon, and the World of Hyatt business card. will factor into that. So stay tuned. I'll keep you posted on exactly how that goes. Likely continuing with Hilton, at least for the year. I'm not a particular hotel loyalist, but we do spend quite a few nights at hotels, and traveling, and done intentionally. And I still have a few aspirational Hilton stays that are on my list. So Antigua, Costa Rica, Cabo, the Seychelles, Bora Bora, to name a few. Not sure how many of those I'll knock off soon, but those are places that I've definitely been eyeing. And I still love my Hilton Aspire card. It's definitely a card that will be staying in my wallet. The value is hard to beat. It's a $400 resort credit over the course of the 12 months, $200 in flight credits. I used a free night certificate in Paris this year at a hotel that was like $800 and up a night, which alone justified the cost of the card, which is $550. So it's definitely staying in my wallet for now. We'll see what happens over the next year. On the airline side, I secured a Southwest status match through their status match challenge with Hyatt. It really is the gift that keeps on giving, Hyatt Globalist is. So it's given me status with Southwest through 2026, which is amazing for positioning flights and, short trips to California, Texas, those type of things. I also had temporary American Airlines status, so secured that through status match with Hyatt Globalist, which meant preferred seats. So I didn't see a ton of benefit from keeping this for me personally with the amount of effort and spend that was required to actually maintain the status. And I've had status with American Airlines before, and it just didn't fit with my personal travel goals for the next year. But I think it's great. It's amazing benefit for the right person if you've got particular travels in mind. It was cool to have, for the time being, just to get those seat upgrades for a couple of trips that we have upcoming. So there's another shift that I want to talk about this year, and I think it's a mindset one. So I'm honestly looking forward to throwing 524 to the wind a little bit. If you're newer to points and miles, here's what that means. So 524 is Chase's unofficial rule where if you've opened 5 or more personal credit cards in the past 24 months, you're typically denied for most Chase cards, regardless of how strong your credit is. And so for a long time, 524 dictated everything, like, at least for me, what cards people opened, when they opened them, what they avoided. But here's the thing. It feels like 524 doesn't really exist the way it used to. Some people have reported being approved while over 524. So we're seeing some reports of that showing up. But in general, Chase has been just overall stingier with like their welcome offers. They've been tightening up on actually approving people, not just approving them, but actually giving them welcome bonus if they are approved. And I think it's just been less compelling overall for a lot of people, including myself. And I think many of us are quietly reassessing whether like playing that game still makes sense. For me, this is also showing up with my Chase Sapphire Reserve card. So when that annual fee comes due, I'm very seriously considered downgrading either to the Chase Sapphire Preferred or one of the Chase Freedom Unlimited or Freedom Flex cards. And that's not because the Chase Sapphire Reserve is a bad card. It's not. But just to be honest, it took a lot of effort to fully use those credits this year. And, I'm not a fan of the $795 fee that will be due in just a few months for me. And so I've heard mixed reviews about the Vegas Lounge as well here. Haven't checked it out yet, so I know that was one of the things that I was really looking forward to and glad that I had my Chase Sapphire Reserve card for. So we'll see exactly how that plays out. I did get the Chase Sapphire Reserve business card, so that will still give me lounge access and a different set of perks. So again, we'll kind of see what happens with the Chase shakeup over the next year. And so I touched upon the rush to use all of my credit cards at the last minute. And I think that was a little painful. I did make it work, but it definitely felt like a scramble. And it took a lot of effort, mostly because I waited to the last minute. So it was partly on myself. But one win that I'm really excited about, I was able to book Broadway tickets here in town using my StubHub credit. And so Chase Sapphire Reserve card gives you $150 semi-annual StubHub credit. And I was able to combine that with my brother's. He actually gifted me his $150 credit because he wasn't going to use it. And I made the payment through PayPal, which allowed me to split the payment into two and use both of our credits. So $300 saved for a show that I was going to book anyway. So that's one of those small but powerful examples of knowing how these systems work. And I also booked 2 nights at the Mandalay Bay. I was having a hard time trying to figure out what to do with this Chase Edit credit. And I know other people have had similar situations. And so I was able to book 2 nights at the Mandalay Bay for about $320 and use my resort credit there. So that was another solid redemption. But if I'm being honest with myself, it didn't feel good to be scrambling at the end, not just with Chase, but with with all these like credit cards turned coupon books, checking deadlines and then hoping credit's posted in time. And again, partly on me because I shouldn't have waited till the last minute. I won't do it again this year. At least that's what I'm telling myself. And I'm still waiting to confirm whether these credits actually carried over today. So I should probably check my credit report and or my transactions and make sure that the credit actually carried over. And if not, it'll just be a credit that goes towards this year, but that means, last 6 months credit was wasted. So that's not the energy that I want to carry into the next year. This year I want to be better with time management overall. So I recorded an episode with Dr. Una a couple episodes back from the Entre MD Business School. She's great. We talked about mastering something for the year, and time management is definitely my goal in life. But in regards to travel, specifically, just being better about tracking my credits with less effort, using them earlier, choosing cards that fit my actual life and not this idealized version of it, and just making decisions and moving on instead of like wasting time, agonizing over the details. Like, ask me how long it took to finally book my final spring break trip after our group family trip kind of crumbled when we couldn't coordinate everything. So, yes, the goal with award travel and points and miles is never to extract every last dollar of value if it costs you your peace and your bandwidth. And that's something that I'm finding. The goal is alignment. And that's part of what I mean when I talk about intentional travel and intentional strategy. Let's see. I'm looking forward to new adventures with my family. The kids are going to see Paris for the first time, so stay tuned for that. Most exciting, this will be my kids' first business class flight. And honestly, right now, my kids like they think premium economy is luxury, and so I do worry about messing this up for them and like setting them up for failure because of this. But I think it definitely. I don't think it's going to become the norm. We still fly economy domestically if we're going to Hawaii or Caribbean, Mexico, where many of our trips are because we like easy and warm and good food and culture and acknowledge that you don't have to go far to get it from like where we live. But it'll be a nice treat for them to be able to fly business class and, especially since it's such a long flight. And I know people have mixed feelings about kids flying in, premium cabins, and that's okay. For me personally, I want them to see what's possible. I want them to have something to aspire to. And also, I want to be comfortable, and they're flying with me. So we fly together and we're going business class. And, that's that. I know I just went to Paris on my solo adventure this year, but there are nonstop flights to Paris that make it an incredible gateway to Europe from here. There are also direct flights to Amsterdam and Dublin and London and Frankfurt from here in Las Vegas. And I was able to take advantage of the Virgin Airlines 40% transfer bonus that ended yesterday and scored some great convenient flights. And so Paris isn't the end point, but I was able to surprise my kids with the gift of Disneyland Paris for Christmas for this summer. So it'll be a great starting point for our ultimate destination elsewhere in Europe where we're going to go and visit friends. And while I'm also hoping to try some new to me premium cabins this year, Air France is always enjoyable, has availability for larger groups, and kids get 25% off of the points price. And, there are often great deals to be had. So that's our vehicle of choice for our way there. Also going on the list of more for this year, I'm looking forward to taking more French trips and more weekend P2 trips. So I'm hoping that I can exchange some of our traditional like date nights for weekend getaways. It's a work in progress, and I'm hoping he can be persuaded. But I love a staycation too, and between all the Resi $100 dining credits on Amex Personal Platinum and the Business and Personal Platinum Fine Hotels and Resorts credit for staycations here at the swanky Vegas hotels and the Chase Sapphire Reserve dining credit, like the first half of the year is covered in terms of date nights. So yes to date trips, yes to getting out of our element and enjoying the perks of our cards and really creating memories and strengthening relationships. So I think this is what I mean when I emphasize living in the now and living with intention. Speaking of relationships, last week I released the 50th episode of the Prescription to Travel MD podcast. Can you believe it? This feels huge to me. So I'm an introvert at heart. Although my son recently told me that we're both ambiverts, I had to look that one up because honestly, I was like, oh, you know what? He might be right. So this podcast existing at all feels like a massive feat for me. I'm incredibly grateful for the relationships that have grown from this. Honestly, it's the best part of having this podcast. I'm so grateful for every guest who's been on the show, many who've become friends, and many who were already friends and I got to know even better after the show, and all the ways that I've learned and been inspired by all of you. And there's the relationships I've built with you who are listening right now. Those of you who've reached out to say that, listening to an episode had some impact on you or a friend, or you shared it with a friend, whether it was like directly related to a trip that you took or a sign-up bonus that you earned that, that got you a free night stay somewhere that you were excited about, or your first time visiting a lounge with your kids and seeing the light, a retreat that you booked last minute because you heard about it here on the podcast, or, a decision to take that time off from your job and to travel and to rest. Like, that's why I do this. Your words, your feedback, they matter, and it helps me keep going. So I do a poor job of checking metrics, and, I'm working on doing better at that this year too. But I also like to pretend that it's just my mom and her friends listening, because then there's like no pressure. But in all seriousness, I'm grateful that I really am. I'm reaching my fellow docs and healthcare professionals and those who want to travel more and live better. And I'm just beyond grateful. Thank you truly from the bottom of my heart for being here. At the core of everything I do is this: I want to help people travel better and to not wait. And so, whether that's learning through the podcast, or again, discovering a course or a conference or retreat that you didn't know existed, learning how to earn and redeem points, or, giving yourself permission to take that week of PTO and just rest, I'm here for you. So I'll continue offering award booking services. So if you have points and you have no interest in learning points and miles and you just want to be able to travel, reach out to me, because I'm able to help you and your family or your loved ones get to where you need to go. I also offer one-to-one strategy consultations where we sit down one-to-one and we figure out the best way for you to start earning points and redeeming it based on your goals. If you go to my website, prescriptiontotravelmd.com, you'll find more under the offer section. I'm especially excited about my new offer, a 90-day points and travel strategy engagement. This is for the discerning traveler and soon to be points guru. So when I designed this option, I had the physician whose time is often limited and extremely valuable in mind, the one who wants value and for someone to meet them where they're at on their terms and on a schedule that's manageable and that works for them. So the doc who doesn't want to be overwhelmed by all the information that's out there in blogs and in groups and reading Reddit, and who wants to know, how can I make this work for my life and for my goals? The doc who wants to save tens of thousands of dollars in travel every year without compromising on the experience, and who wants an elevated experience and wants to still meet their personal financial goals. So through guided modules, biweekly one-to-one calls, and then a fully personalized plan, the point strategy engagement is going to help you build confidence in, your ability to create this for yourself again and again. It'll give you clarity on your travel and your life goals and real results. So again, without spending hours trying to piece it together and while minimizing costly mistakes. So I'm excited for a February start for those who've already reached out. Like, so excited for you. And I can't wait to see what you'll be and where you'll be in just a short period of time. And because I want to be available to offer one-to-one support, I only have a limited number of spots available. So definitely reach out if you're interested. Let's get you on your way. Okay. No regrets this year. Thanks for being here, though. I hope this is helpful in giving you something to think about for your own travel planning in 2026 and beyond. Here's to a year of intentional travel, of smart strategy, and really just choosing to live now. I'll see you next time.